Presentation on the screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can, thank you.
Okay, lovely. So I guess as this has been recorded, I'll just introduce myself briefly for the recording as well. So my name's Daisy. I'm the clinical lead OT for CAMHS at Signet Healthcare based in Bury. And I've been asked to come and speak today about occupational therapy. I've put together a presentation that I'll go through, and I'm happy either to take questions as they come up, or there will be some time at the end to field any questions that anyone's got as well. So occupational therapy. Our governing body, the Royal College of Occupational Therapists, describes OT as a science-based degree. Sorry, got the people's faces over half of my slides. Sorry, science-based degree-based health and social care profession. We're regulated by the Health and Care Professions Council, and OTs take a whole person approach to both mental and physical health and well-being, enabling individuals to achieve their full potential. So that's a bit wordy. So hopefully the slides going forward will break that down a bit and explain it in a bit more layman's terms. So OTs consider something called occupational balance to be really important to well-being for everybody, not just the young people that we see in our services, but to you and I, to our staff, to parents and carers. And what we mean by occupational balance is, as occupational therapists, we consider all activities of daily living, and we categorise them largely in three main categories, which are self-care, productivity and leisure. And what we kind of believe is that everybody needs a good balance of those of activities in their daily lives that cover all three of those categories. You may have experienced in the past, if you've spent too much time working, you then don't look after your self-care, or you're not engaging in your leisure activities, and that can have an impact on your mental well-being. For some of our young people, we worry sometimes if they're playing too many computer games for too long, they're not actually engaging in productive activities, or they're not looking after their self-care. We kind of believe that if anyone's kind of spending too much time doing only one of these categories of activities, that's going to have an impact on their well-being. So what we look at is trying to find occupational balance, which is a nice balance between all three of these categories of activities. And there is overlap between the categories as well. For some people, an activity might fit in one category, whereas for another person, it'll mean something else to them. The example I normally talk about is cooking. So for some people, cooking is a self-care activity. They cook to eat for themselves, and that looks after their physical health and well-being. Some people might work in a job where they're cooking for people. And other people might just purely enjoy the experience of cooking for other people, feeding people. So for different people, the activity of cooking could fit into any of those categories. Where there is that big overlap, we if we're worried about the occupational balance someone might have, we'd probably do a bit more exploration into what category they feel certain activities fit into. But if it's a single activity, and generally there's a good balance for that person, it doesn't matter too much what category they're putting single activities into, trying to look at it kind of on a more general, wider scale. So at Signet, and I think at most CAMHS sort of tier 4 services, there's an expectation that our young people are given therapeutic timetables which cover the week, cover the full week, sort of Monday to Sunday, right through the day, right through to the evenings. At Signet and Bury, our timetables look a bit like this, unless people have got sort of communication needs, need things adapting pictorially, simplifying, doing on a single day basis for maybe kind of someone with autism who may be unable to kind of focus on a whole week plan. But generally, most of our young people get a timetable that looks a bit like this. We use different colours to try and categorise most of our activities into those three categories of self-care, productivity and leisure. We try to focus our productivity activities from Monday to Friday 9-5 to kind of replicate what a normal routine would be for a lot of our young people. If they weren't in hospital, the idea would be that they'd generally be going to school in those hours, and then we focus kind of more on the leisure activities, evenings and weekends. There's self-care kind of throughout the day, and that's kind of similar for all of us. We try and personalise the timetables. So when somebody's admitted, we try to, when they're engaging with us, or we try and gain information from other people that know them about their likes and dislikes, what their interests are, because having meaning to the activities that we're doing is really important. We can offer a wide range of activities, but if they're not something that that young person likes to do, it's pretty pointless. So we try and personalise the timetables as much as we can. We try to offer a lot of variation. Once we've got that information, we create something called an activity grab sheet, which we put on the back of the timetables, which can help the young people and the staff to identify activities to do when there's maybe some free time on the timetable, or if something's had to be cancelled. And there's also slots at the bottom of the timetable where people can where we add on things like that might be planned on a more ad hoc basis, like leave, or other one-to-one sessions with the other members of the MDT, that might need to be a bit more flexible. So that's what our timetables look like. It can give a nice snapshot in terms of seeing that occupational balance. If you can see there's a range of colours on that timetable, you can see that there is occupational balance within that routine. So occupational therapists enable people to do what they need and want to do. So doing things is our kind of medium of assessment and intervention, and doing things for everyone, not just our young people, but all of us. It gives us a sense of achievement, makes us feel good, gives personal satisfaction, purpose. It can help you to kind of feel that you're good at something, you know things. It can help developing friendships, making you feel valuable and belonging. It can support independence. You can get a sense of pride, feeling happy. Other people might praise you, and essentially doing things make up part of who we are. We're kind of the sum of our parts, I guess, some people might say. And because OTs know and believe that being able to do things is central to who we are as human beings, it's also a part of how we make relationships, friendships, and how we get involved in social activities and involvement in life. So doing things really matters to everyone. And it can be really hard for our young people when they come into our services to because they've been taken away from a lot of their relationships that they're used to in their home life, taken away from family, friends, school, that kind of sense of belonging in those communities that they're used to being in. And it can be difficult to try and kind of build that back up again, and developing those relationships in our services. So actually doing activities and engaging with our young people is really important to supporting that. And it's part of the OT's role is to promote that, encourage that. We do training with the wider staff teams around the importance of this, to hopefully kind of give that emphasis across our whole MDT and staff team. So therapy versus activity. A lot of people don't know what OT is, and think that they're kind of redcoats, we're entertainers, we're just doing nice, fun activities with our patients, with our young people. So we just want to consider the difference between a therapeutic occupation and a general activity on the ward. There's value to both occupational therapy and to activities, but it's a bit different in terms of the roles that the different clinicians undertake. So you might see young people engaging in board games, baking, playing games, board games, listening to music. All of these activities can be both a general activity or a therapeutic activity. If it's an occupational therapist doing that activity, or an OTA doing that activity with the person, they're generally using that activity to assess different skills, measuring performance, offering opportunity to practice skills, and kind of working on things that the young people have identified as a priority for what they want to be, the skills they want to be improving whilst they're with us. So so yeah, it is a key part of our role is using activity in a therapeutic way for those assessments and to measure the performance. So generally, if it's a therapeutic occupation, it's meaningful and purposeful and in the context that it should be performed, and it involves active engagement of the young person. It should be developing their skills, empowering their individual choice. It should be part of their roles and routines, enabling them to function better in their current environment or in their potential future environment. We can grade the activities to tailor them to levels of need and skills. It should have an aim or a goal, and the therapist will then analyse the activity to make sure it's suited and kind of at the right level for the young person. If it's just a general activity, it can be for entertainment and distraction. It's not a bad thing. We do encourage activity to be taking place all the time in our services. The difference being that activities might not be specific to that person. They might be offered on a group basis. They might not every activity is going to be relevant to every young person on the ward. So it's frequently out of context of the environment the person would normally do the task in. Sometimes it can be passive rather than interactive, and it might be that the staff members doing the activity whilst sat in the same space as the young person, and the young person might just be watching the activity but not engaged, but that can still be of benefit in terms of developing that sort of remotivating them when that might be an issue. And engagement in activities can lead to more therapeutic use of that activity with occupational therapy. So we look at, I was going to talk briefly about the three categories that we mentioned earlier. So self-care, OTs will be looking at things like showering and bathing, brushing teeth, cleaning bedrooms, healthy eating. We'll work alongside dietitians when we have them in our services. We'll support with doing laundry, changing clothes, and all sorts of activities that come under that self-care umbrella. And we're also looking at whether the young person's completing the activity to a good level. I think we see a lot of young people having showers where they may be just stand under the water, but we'll come in and look at whether are they using shampoo, are they using shower gel, do they know kind of what order to do things in, are they using the right equipment, do they know what they're doing, and we can support with skill development in that area. We're also looking at, so we do a lot of sessions out in the community when our young people get access to leave. When we go out on community leave, we're looking at things like budgeting, road safety, orientation, communication with sort of members of the public, mobility and using public transport. That can often kind of be difficult for our young people. They can be quite anxious on leave. It can be quite overwhelming if they've been in hospital for a long time. So we quite often grade our community leaves to sort of reduce that overwhelm and support that kind of right level of challenge for the young people so that they can kind of develop those skills or kind of regain that confidence that they may have lost over time. And then cooking skills, we do quite a lot of cooking sessions, and we're looking kind of at an age appropriate level. Are the young people able to kind of feed themselves? For some of our young people, kind of your 12, 13, 14-year-olds, it might be very basic. Can they make the breakfast? Can they make themselves a sandwich? Can they make a snack? For some of our older young people, kind of 16, 17, heading towards adulthood, we might be looking at whether they can budget, kind of cook on a budget? Have they got a range of meals they can cook for themselves? Can they use different pieces of equipment? And at that age appropriate level, we're looking at kind of safe use of sharps, kitchen hygiene, using the equipment safely. Can they follow a recipe? Basic understanding of food safety, and orientation and organisation, those sorts of skills. Cooking sessions for a lot of our young people can be quite motivating as well, so they're quite a useful assessment mode for us. And then productive routines. So as I was saying, we're looking at occupational balance and the young people's ability to follow those timetables that we provide. Are they able to kind of self-direct activities, or do they rely heavily on the staff to fill their time? Looking at their levels of motivation, looking at kind of their sleep-wake cycles, and are they staying awake during the daytime to engage in activities, or are they going back to sleep? Is that affecting their ability to sleep at night, affecting their energy levels and activity tolerance? And we can come in and support with that as well. And kind of having those productive routines, it's all part of the roles that the young people identify with. I think for some of our young people, they come into hospital, and when they end up in hospital for quite a long time, they can feel that kind of they lose a lot of their roles that they're used to having, and kind of assume this patient role, this dependence on people to do things for them, and we're kind of trying to promote that regaining independence through kind of OT, and then supporting the wider team to promote engagement and promote that independence back to activities as and when they're well enough and ready to start retaining those skills. It might be for some of our younger young people, it might be teaching skills that they've not yet learned. For others, it's kind of regaining skills that they may have maybe lacking the motivation to maintain. Excuse me. So another area that OTs will look at in general is sensory difficulties or sensory needs. These are supports or equipment which use our senses to help organise our arousal levels and help with engagement and activity. It's just important to note that sensory strategies are not the same as sensory integration. There can be a bit of confusion, and not all OTs are trained specifically in sensory integration, but we can all use sensory strategies on a kind of a lower level of intervention. At Signet, we will generally screen all our young people around their sensory preferences when they're first admitted, if they're willing to engage with that. If they're not able to engage, we might contact carers to find out if they're using any sensory strategies, or they've been using any sensory strategies before coming into hospital, whether we can replicate any of that or bring stuff from home that's going to support with those issues. We have an internal to Signet team of advanced practitioners who we can refer to where further sensory assessment is clinically indicated. That's generally when the sensory issues are having an impact on the young person's ability to engage in activities of daily living. Sometimes you might be able to see sensory difficulties, but if they're not having an impact on their ability to engage in the activities that we're trying to engage them in, then it's kind of in an inpatient setting, it's not the ideal place to be doing those complex and comprehensive sensory assessments. If it's not urgent, we would look to maybe recommend that work would be done on discharge when they're settled in a more permanent community placement or back at home. So sensory strategies can help with focus, calming, feeling safe, grounding. They can be an alternative to self-harm or helping to cope with pain, illness and grief, coping with urges for substances, and they can just be for pleasure as well. So when we do our screen at Signet, when young people come into hospital, oops, let's skip forward. We look at the different senses, and we've got kind of lists of different sensory activities, and the young people can tell us what they like and dislike. Using that information, we make a sensory grab sheet, which again helps both the young people and the staff to develop coping strategies when they're feeling kind of overwhelmed or maybe not stimulated enough. Ideally, we want the young people to be proactively using these. Where they're not able to do so, it's the staff that will generally use these grab sheets to then make the suggestions to the young people, and then we'll support with making sure the resources are available. And where we find strategies that work really well, we'll try and make sure that they're sent on discharge as well with the young person, so that they've got kind of a sensory toolkit that they can take with them of strategies that they've found that work for them. It can be things like fidgets, it can be scented sprays or essential oils, it can be things like weighted blankets, ear defenders, all sorts of it's endless, the amount of sensory strategies that are available. And sometimes you have to think really creatively where there's risk issues, or where there's young people with very specific needs. But that's something that we're finding is working quite well at the moment. So yeah, that was a whistle-stop tour of OT. I hope it's been useful and informative, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you for listening.
I thought that was really good. Thanks, Daisy. Really interesting.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions that have been sent in by a parent that can't be here, if that's all right.
Of course.
So I'll just see if you can answer them. What do occupational therapists do differently to support ND patients differently?
Support what? Sorry. Support what patients differently?
ND. I think she means neurodiverse.
Oh, sorry, sorry. I've not heard it abbreviated that.
No,
and neither have I, actually.
Yeah. I guess
here now.
Shall I wait till they're in, if that's
yes, please.
Yeah.
Hi, Amuna. You've just missed the presentation, but I literally just asked your first question. So what do occupational therapists do differently to support neurodivergence patients differently?
Cool. So I'm happy to share my presentation as well. I can send that out via email for you as well, if that would be useful.
Thanks so much.
So I guess in answer to the question, we as occupational therapists, we try to view every individual that we work with in a holistic way. So I think for neurodiverse young people, we'd be looking very much at sensory issues, which I mentioned at the end of the presentation there. They play quite a key role in supporting our neurodiverse patients young people to be able to